Welcome to One Step Past, and this is way past strange. Ghost Slave, the first ever ghost story. The first known ghost story comes from ancient Greece in the days of the Roman Empire. There is a lot to be said about it. Did it happen? What parts of the story are true? Since this happened so long ago, is there a way it could be proven? First, we'll take a look at the story. Then we'll look at the details surrounding this early spook out. Athenodorus and the Ghost Slave. Athenodorus was a Greek philosopher who lived in the early days of the Roman Empire. He came to Athens one day, looking for a house to rent where he could think and write. The place looked perfect for his purposes, but the extremely low cost of the rent raised his suspicion. Athenodorus inquired about why it was so cheap. The owner told him that the house had been haunted for so long that no one wanted to stay there. The ghost made himself known at all times, sometimes appearing in spectral form. This spirit, who was believed to be evil, had scared many, many people. This didn't discourage Athenodorus one bit. As a matter of fact, it made him more inclined to rent it. Why would this be? Did he want to prove there was no ghost? Was he looking forward to actually seeing a ghost? Or did he think the spookiness of the old place would give him inspiration? It's hard to tell what goes on in a man's mind, but he was not at all scared to go into the house. The night began with silence for quite a while. Then, in the middle of his writing, Athenodorus heard the clanking of iron chains. It didn't stop him, and the scholar continued with his work. The noise got louder and louder, closer and closer, until it seemed like it was at the door of his room. When Athenodorus turned around to look, he saw the ghost, exactly as it had been described to him. The specter was of an old man, a slave who looked rather sickly and pitiful. He had a long beard and unruly hair. He was also extremely thin and dirty. Shackles and chains bound his hands and feet. Besides the fact that he was a ghost, he didn't do anything that Athenodorus found particularly scary. The ghost slave waved a finger, motioning for the writer to follow him. Athenodorus held up his hand to the ghost, signaling for him to wait while he finished his writing. Odd enough, the ghost was patient enough to wait, but not too patient. Chains continued to rattle as the house's new inhabitant continued to write. At some point, Athenodorus finished his writing, or at least reached a stopping point. The ghost clearly wasn't going away. The impromptu ghost hunter picked up his candle lamp and followed the old man. He led Athenodorus out of the house and into the middle of the courtyard. Then he vanished. Athenodorus, being the smart man that he was, thought where the ghost had vanished was significant. He took whatever grass and leaves he could find to mark the spot. The next morning, Athenodorus went to the city magistrates and requested that spot to be dug up. The officials were quite accommodating and did as he asked. Buried in the ground was a skeleton wearing chains. The man had been in the ground for so long that the chains were corroded. His remains were gathered, and he was given a proper burial at the public's expense. After that, the house was haunted no more. Athenodorus helped put the old slave spirit to rest. So how do we know this story? This ghost story, which is alleged to be true, was recorded by a man called Pliny the Younger in the 1st century AD. He was an author, lawyer, and politician in ancient Rome. Pliny was born many years after Athenodorus died, so it is believed this event happened about a century earlier. How would Pliny even know about this story? Is there an earlier, yet to be found written account of this ghost adventure? Or is it a story that was so popular back then that it was passed by word of mouth? We don't know, but we do know that Pliny couldn't have made up all the details to the story. Pliny wrote about this story in a letter to an influential Roman senator named Lucius Sura. Quite amazingly, many of Pliny's letters have survived. There are 247 known letters that Pliny wrote to important men of power. His letters are of great historical value because they tell us so much of what went on back then and how things worked. Did Pliny make up this story? He was a writer, so there is that possibility. However, it seems unlikely that this would be the case. Why would Pliny waste his time and talent constructing a fantastic story in a letter to an important Roman senator? Especially since, much like now, letters usually get thrown away. Clearly, Pliny was not trying to get rich and famous by writing this story. Was it Athenodorus number 1 or Athenodorus number 2? It is generally considered that Pliny was talking about the philosopher Athenodorus Canonides. This man lived from 74 BC to 7 AD. However, there was another philosopher by the name of Athenodorus Cordelion. Both of these men lived around the same time. Both of them were born near Tarsus, which is present-day Turkey. Both of them were from the Stoic school of philosophy. In addition to this, both of them traveled to Rome. It's easy to see how the two men could be confused. Did Pliny even know which Athenodorus he was talking about? At any rate, this proves that there is some connection to historical fact on Pliny's part. Pliny's impact. As far as we know, this is the first time a ghost story was written down. It became the generic archetype for countless ghost stories to follow, whether intended to be truthful or outright fictional. The idea of a ghost wearing chains, being unsettled by his manner of death, the fact that a living human can somehow get rid of the ghost, all of these things first appeared in this ghost story. These ideas are so heavily used that many people don't realize where they came from. One thing is for sure, this ghost story is entertaining and way past strange.